curious because I want to see
Okay.
if this plays out the way I think it might play out. Next time,
Okay.
you, my friend, my dear friend, who I love and
Hmm.
admire your presence and the way you're a little heady with everything, like I am, and I have to fight that sometimes. You're constantly analyzing all the stuff and all. Try this, and I
Okay.
want to know what happens the next time you walk into a store and you feel that thing where somebody, you think they're judging you a certain way.
Okay.
Ask them. Ask them. Go. What what are you feeling from this right now? Just like blow them away with a little truth moment of what do you
Okay.
I'm looking for some clothes. What are you feeling right now from me doing this? And I'm curious whether they would be honest enough to go, I was thinking you're probably going to buy a lot of stuff, or I'm just curious what they would say. I'm just
They'd
curious.
probably say nothing, bro.
They they they
They'd probably say the politically correct thing they would say. They wouldn't say
they
the because most
you're
people
most
again they
likely
don't
right.
say
Yeah.
the truth. They wouldn't.
You're most likely right.
Most people. It's like, for example, when this whole situation with George Floyd. I mean, for me, I had friends. Number one, that I've known for years. Now I'm no longer friends with because I saw the racism come out that I didn't even think that they were racist. Because again, it's just like the media, it's just like anything. When George Floyd died, this man had a knee on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds until he was dead. 8 minutes and 46 seconds. We watched the man get his life taken in front of the entire world. And if that doesn't affect you as a human, not about black, not about white, not about Chinese, not about what creed or color you're from, if it doesn't affect you as a human, then there's something seriously wrong with you. And for me, what angered me about that situation with certain people, number one, was that whenever a person of my color either gets in a situation, either confronted by the police or in that situation, the first thing that someone wants to do is dig up somebody's past to say, well, he was a drug dealer back in 15 years ago and he did this, or he had a criminal record from this. And the question I always say to people is that because you have a criminal record, does that still make you a criminal for your whole life? Because I know people, number one, that have gone through the system, just like I did when I was younger, and they've turned their life around. Should they have been held with the same brush their whole life when they've made positive changes? They've done positive things for the community. They've done things to make sure that people who are younger in the generation don't make the same mistakes that they do. Should they be crucified for the rest of their life from their past? What makes any person perfect? There is no such thing. So when people constantly use the narrative, well, if he didn't have a criminal past, that wouldn't have happened. Or if he, number one, wasn't here doing this, that wouldn't have happened. Or if he wasn't on drugs, this wouldn't have happened. But it's like we've all known someone who's gone through drug situations, drug abuse. And does that make them a bad person? Does that make them an evil person because they've got a drug problem? If they make a bad decision in life, in their younger days in life, does that make them a bad person for their entire life? No. And this is what happens is that as soon as something happens, people focus on the negative, and then again, with not knowing who that person was. Period. Like, for example, the same situation, Ron. You're loved, and I love you, and you're loved by millions of people all around the world. But the same situation that happened to George Floyd Could happen to you. Could happen to me. Could happen to any person here watching this viewing viewership right now. Any one of us can be in a situation that we woke up one day, planned our whole day out, and then something happens, and our whole day just goes left. And that's why I tell people, number one, is that we don't know what someone has gone through. We don't know what anyone's going through. And the world is such in a fucking divide right now because people have forgot the simple aspect of just being kind, of being kind to each other. Because I've always said, like, when you look at 9/11, 9/11 is what, to me, it's not what's happening right now. 9/11 is what changed everything for the world. That was the day the world completely went like this. But when you look at what happened in New York after those weeks after the towers went down, if 9/11 had happened anywhere else in the entire United States, they'd still be digging themselves out right now. Because 9/11 showed it wasn't about black, it wasn't about white, it wasn't about Muslim, it wasn't about jihad, it wasn't about anything. It was about this tragic event that we have to come together to build. We are only as strong as one unit than divided. But people, for some reason, feel that, okay, well, that person's life is more valuable than another person's life. Or when someone sits there and says, like you said earlier on, you're like, I've been around people, number one, and I've never had to experience, number one, racism, people that I've known, or et cetera, et cetera. And that's fine. That's great. Well, people will sit there and say, well, it doesn't happen either in my area or in my city or in my experience as much. And I always say, forget the as much. It just shouldn't fucking happen, period. We shouldn't even be having the talk about racism. Like Morgan Freeman said, the best way to get rid of racism is to stop talking about it. The best way to get rid of COVID-19 is to stop talking about it. The best way to get rid of the Trumpers versus the non-Trumpers is to fucking stop talking about it. Live your life for you. Make your decisions and live with your decisions and live with your choices. If you make a choice...
Yeah, live your life in a positive way.
Positive way. If you understand, if you make... I told you, everything in life is a choice, Ron. If you make a bad... Everyone makes mistakes. But I tell people all the time, mistakes are only mistakes once. Anything after that, it's a choice. You can fuck up once, but learn from that shit. I've made mistakes and I've learned from them. And that's why when it came to the situations that I've gone into, I didn't ask for them. I didn't ask to get beat up by cops when I was a kid. I didn't ask, the bottom line, to be put in the situations that I've gone through with racism, because nobody asked for that. But I'm not going to pretend like it didn't happen. I just don't talk about them. But when I do talk about them, like I did a couple of weeks ago on that video, because I couldn't believe like that, like seeing what you're seeing on the news. And then for me to go into a store and have somebody berate me like that and feel that they had the power to do so and feel that there was no recourse. Because again, when she played the card, you remember seeing the video where she was like, I'm going to call the police. I was like, call them. I'll wait right here.
Do you feel, D, that people respond that way out of fear?
Yeah.
The fear is a
100%.
big motivational factor.
100%.
And I feel like the world the fear is being perpetuated, from my point of view, by the media so much, and it's being done on purpose. Because when people are in fear, you can control them a little better, and you can make them think that things are happening when they may not be happening, but you control them with the fear. My friend, we're gonna wind this up now. This is actually my longest show ever. I'm very sad. I'm very sad that Texas fell out of the conversation here. He was, for everybody who tuned in late, Texas was driving about 2 hours to the airport He was in Texas, and he was driving to another place in Texas to go back to where his house is. And you can drive for 2 hours in Texas and be like in a very small portion of Texas. It's amazing, but he had to drop out of the conversation here. Unfortunately, he probably couldn't get back in, but I'm very sad about that.